Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I'm Ryan Wormeli, joined on this Thursday morning by Andrew Erickson and Chris Welsh. Fellas, it's our predictions show. We're changing up the schedule a bit because of the new year, also because it's week 18. So kind of takes a different shape here when we get to this time of the year because most fantasy leagues are done. The vast majority of leagues have their championship, as they should, in week 17. There are a few stragglers, random leagues here and there. I know of a couple of people who the commissioner just accidentally set it for week 18 or something. Those are few and far between, though. We are still bringing you predictions, though, for a bunch of reasons. Maybe you're playing DFS. Maybe you want to bet on some of these players. Maybe you do have one of those week 18 championships. For whatever the reason is that you're interested in kind of previewing and predicting the week ahead, that is why we are here doing our usual predictions. Each guy is going to bring 5 of them, and we're going to see how we did last week. Erickson, you were wrong about everything again.
No way.
No.
Is that real?
Technically, yes, though. I will give you 2 caveats. One is that Anthony Richardson didn't play, so you really only had 4 predictions that could have panned out. And you were, as we discussed, spiritually correct about J.K. Dobbins, if not technically correct about J.K. Dobbins. But yes, you have another O for back-to-back weeks, Eric.
I thought you were being just mean, by the way. I thought like in our little private chat we have, I thought Worm was just being like a jerk, like just trying to poke the bear.
It's a fair assumption most of the time, but no, he is wrong again.
It's hard to
do. But like I said, you were spiritually correct, at least about Dobbins, Erickson.
Yeah. So, I mean, the point of it was J.K. Dobbins was going to have a good game against the Patriots. He did. He scored. Didn't hit the massive rushing yards amount, but he didn't play in the fourth quarter because Patriots suck. So, yeah, that's not my fault. And it's not my fault Richardson didn't play. So, again, when you only give me 4 bets, I mean, it's going to be tough for me to hit any predictions if I only get 4 chances. So...
Everyone knows you need 5. It's like well known.
You had 5 chances. You picked a player who didn't end up playing. Welsh, you didn't have a great week. You had a couple misses. Audric Estime, Jordan Love, and Jaden Reed, obviously. You were technically wrong about Jameson Williams' yardage, but again, very spiritually correct about Jameson Williams having a big game, and he had the 40-yard play. So really like the definition of spiritually correct on him. And then, of course, and then technically correct, spiritually correct, everything correct on Mike Evans' 2-touchdown incentive game. Just absolutely hit that nail on the head.
Yeah, we got that. Yeah, and I had said with the Audric Estime one too, like it could be Jaleel McLaughlin. So I think I'm like in the spiritual category because I said if McLaughlin plays, it's going to be him instead of Estime. So there's like a spiritual side to it. But yeah, it was okay. I mean, it did nail the Evans one. I'm going to take a win on Jameson Williams. Whatever the other ones weren't great. But hey, like Erickson said, you get 5 stabs at it. You got to get 1, but you got to get 5 stabs.
Pick players that are playing, number 1. Give you your best odds.
Well, guess what? It's week 18. Who the hell knows who's playing?
Yeah,
that's part of the
problem. It's never been harder
here.
to know who's playing than this week. By the way, just housekeeping for everyone, we are going to continue this show into the playoffs, so you can kind of view it as more of just a general, weekly preview of the playoff rounds. Again, if you want to, use this for placing bets or if you're playing some kind of playoff fantasy, whatever the reason might be that you would be interested, we are going to continue this show throughout the NFL playoffs, even once the regular season is done this week. Guys, let's jump into our week 18 predictions. Erickson, start us off.
Steelers are going to beat the Cincinnati Bengals on Saturday, and it's going to be because of the Jalen Warren RB1 season. Jalen Warren's kind of taken over this backfield. Basically, since he's gotten healthy, he's outsnapped Najee Harris 4 straight games. He's also had more red zone work than Najee Harris over the last 2 weeks. So when it comes to a prop, I like the over on his receiving yards. 21.5 is the line that I've seen. He has at least 25 receiving yards in 6 of his last 8 games. Last time he faced the Bengals, 4 targets, caught all 4 of them for 55 yards, including a 29-yard gain. The Bengals can't tackle on defense. If you remember how this matchup worked out the first time, it was Najee Harris and Jalen Warren just running free, breaking tackles left and right against the Bengals defense that did a lot of damage in the passing game. Both of the running backs did. So I'm expecting more of the same. I think that the Steelers can win this game. I don't think they're getting enough credit for their season so far. And, they don't have a lot to play for. It's Mike Tomlin at home as an underdog. Like, give me that all day against the Cincinnati Bengals. Look, this is the perfect way to end the Bengals' terrible season. That has been a waste of Joe Burrow, a loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers to knock them out of the playoffs entirely. So they're going to get to play out and see what Denver or Miami does on Sunday. So that's my prediction. And I think Jalen Warren is going to be someone that is going to have a really big game.
Yeah, I'm somewhat confused. What is the line currently in this game?
Bengals are favored by like a point and a half
I see
on the road.
two here on DraftKings Sportsbook. It's 2. Yeah, I don't totally understand why the Steelers are underdogs.
Well, I
Well,
think part of it is because I think Justin Fields was taking like first team reps, if I saw that correctly, early in the week. So again, with what they're playing for, you might see Fields in this game. That's probably some because they're not. What are they playing for?
well,
If they win, they get to
am I
play
having
the
it wrong?
Tex.
Can't they get the 5 seed?
They get
Yeah,
to
there's
play at Houston versus if they lose, they have to play at Baltimore. Which
It's a good
I
point.
mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out if they'd like to win this game or not. And they also get to knock out the Steelers. They've also played terrible. Like they're on a 3-game losing streak. Do they want to go into the playoffs facing Baltimore again on the road, losing 4 games in a row? Like probably not.
It's the only thing that makes sense for a Pittsburgh team that's at home for them to not be favorites would be that they're not going to play it out. That would be what the line must be telling us.
And I think people are just like very like there's been this kind of swell of, well, maybe Joe Burrow should actually get MVP consideration, and he's been amazing, and he really has been incredible this year. And obviously we know Jamar Chase and T Higgins are awesome, but the rest of this team stinks. Like I think people are just looking at like, oh, Joe Burrow's amazing, and they are more desperate to get in the playoffs than the Steelers are going to be to just like go up a seed line. But I think the Steelers have incentive to win this game, even if the Ravens win the earlier game on Saturday. I think the Steelers will want to win this to try and get that Texans matchup. And I just think Cincy is really, really bad outside of those megastars. And they are legitimately playing like some of the best players in football, but there's like 3 or 4 guys on that team. The rest of them are not good. So I don't understand that line at all, honestly. What do you think about Welsh, Jalen Warren as an RB1 like Erickson's predicting?
It's always Jalen Warren. It's always been Jalen Warren. It's got to continue to be Jalen Warren. Coming into a couple weeks ago, I was talking about how the Bengals were giving up receiving yards. They've moved off of being like the number 1 team because they got blasted one game, but they're still like right around the top 10 in receiving yards given up to running backs. And that is where Jalen Warren's thriving on the ground as well. I'd be 100% interested in the receiving yard prop. I'd probably be looking at what his rushing and receiving combo yards look like as well, because they love to give him the ball on the instead of, it's not just like, 6 or 7 carries. It's like, no, give it more primary over Najee. Yeah, I think he's going to eat up this team. Again, the only concern or question would be is if this line is telling us that they're not going to be playing out the whole game, do they want to make sure that Jalen Warren is the guy that's playing out the whole game? Would that be something maybe you get a little bit more Najee because he's had less work, get third string in? I don't know. But I do like the receiving yards of Jalen Warren.
Well, let's stick with you for your number 5 prediction.
Yeah, so mine is going to ruin and break a lot of people's brains for next season, especially when they're getting in the tight end market, because Penix is going to get the ball to Kyle Pitts this week. So first, it's kind of there's a pseudo Penix is going to have 2 passing touchdowns this week. But the main thing is about Kyle Pitts going 60 plus and another touchdown. Everybody else was already like, oh, look, Kyle Pitts is doing a few things. He's going to do some more things, and it's going to hurt people. Carolina's given up the 11th most receiving yards to tight ends so far in the year, and the most touchdowns overall. We saw him catch 4 of 5 passes this past week, and he's becoming a target. Penix is kind of doing that check down thing. He's getting the ball around. He's starting to do some of those athletic plays. His biggest problem is catching the ball. That was why that interception happened 2 weeks ago, where it was like, bloop. It was like old school Vernon Davis with those stone hands and really great athleticism, though. But I think we are going to get a bigger Kyle Pitts game, going to be the biggest game of his season. It'll be just ripe to end the season. So next year, when we're breaking down tight ends, everyone's going to be like, Kyle Pitts. Remember Kyle Pitts? And we shouldn't do that, but he's going to break people's brains this week.
Man, like sitting in August talking about Kyle, like we just can't. Like you just
they're going
don't.
to.
I know you're probably right, but we can't. I like. This was the year. This was the one last ride. I will give him a final chance to become the guy we thought he could be. It obviously didn't happen. I can't do another offseason.
Yeah, it was like Venom, The Last Dance.
Quarterback, like I can't. Yes, it's a pretty good impression. Where do you think he will be ranked? Not by you, but in ECR in 2025 drafts. Welsh.
Oh God, I think he'll be around like 14, and that's already going to probably be 6 spots too high. But I think it'll be right around that 14, 15 area because of those last 2 games. But this is what I want to say. Erickson, don't. Bad. Put Kyle Pitts down. Don't do it. Are you going to do it?
I mean, if he's a late round tight end, he's an option. Like, again, like he's going to be a guy you can take your last pick. You don't have to draft him in most leagues anyway. So I think you can see it play out. Like, you're going to say you don't want pieces of Michael Penix year 2 Falcons offense, like, and he's going to be the cheapest guy. I mean, look,
it's like a dog.
I actually don't think he's going to be a late round option. If Welsh is right and we see a big finish from Pitts when specifically paired with Michael Penix, I think people will talk themselves into it once again. How old is Kyle Pitts? What is he, 24? Like,
oh yeah.
I don't know if he just turned 24 though, or if he's turning 25. I just know he's 24 right now as we're talking on January 2nd.
So he turned 24 in October. Okay. So he will start next season at 24 years old. Like,
I mean, so he's younger than Bo Nix. Is what you're telling me?
Yes. I think he's younger than Michael Penix, actually. Yeah. I'm not saying I will be in on him. I'm not saying he's going to be ranked in the top 5. I think he's going to be not a late round guy. I think he's going to be like a mid round tight end.
I was about to, better prediction would be top 12 tight end. Like, he will probably be, when people get to like 10 and 12, they'll be like, yeah, you know what? I think we could do Kyle Pitts over, Freiermuth or over Hunter Henry.
That's the thing. Like, what name are you going to put ahead? Like, are you going to pick like Zach Ertz, another year older, like Chig Okonkwo, like Jake Ferguson?
That's what I mean. When you end up doing the ranking, I mean, you're going to take Chig Okonkwo, who does like
should.
Why?
In the year?
Pitts is looking good in year 2. It's the same thing.
Pitts has been one of the worst picks of all time this year that we did again.
I think he was worse last year.
Except Penix Penix is, and maybe it will be fixed. But this is what I'm talking about. Your brain is already broken. No, oh my God. I was saying people's brains are going to be broken. What? Brains are already broken with Kyle Pitts.
I took Kyle Pitts in the 14th round. My team is dead. No.
But I don't think you're gonna be able to wait till the 14th round if you want to.
Oh my God!
I don't know. I mean, the hate for Kyle Pitts is pretty strong. Like, I don't think people are going to be swayed if he catches a touchdown against the Carolina Panthers.
It's still just such a weak position. Like I'm looking right now. This is for Week 18 rankings, but just looking at the names, there's not that many that I'm 100% certain will be ranked ahead of Kyle Pitts in ECR. It's like Bowers, McBride, Laporta, Jonnu, Hawkinson, Andrews, Kittle. That's 7. Tucker Kraft. That's 8 names. After that, I think there are other names that will probably be ranked ahead of him, but I'm not 100% certain will be ranked ahead of Kyle Pitts in ECR come August. I guess that's my point.
I think you're probably right. By the way, best stat is that he's younger than Michael Penix. That's actually the best stat of all.
I think it's more about just Michael Penix being old as a rookie than Pitts.
No, I know.
Pitts also was very young and is entered year 4?
But let's be honest though. Would it surprise anybody if a tight end that was really young took 4 years to? This happens all the time. That's the thing. He's a tight end. And tight ends tend to be slow starters. Not everyone's Brock Bowers. So
I can't believe we're making this case.
Wait, just to the point of this week, though, I think it's a good call by Welsh because Panthers suck against tight ends, and he already went over 70 yards against them earlier this year. He didn't score, so if he can get the yards, he can probably find the end zone too. And he's got Penix, so obviously, and Penix has targeted him back-to-back weeks in the red zone. Right, the first time it was an interception. This time it was a touchdown. So I like the odds.
It is the most wonderful time of the year for getting in on all of the hoops, football, and hockey action at DraftKings Sportsbook. In the season of giving, we're being gifted college football and basketball, pro football and basketball, and pro hockey too, almost 24/7. So many games every day, so many opportunities to place your first bet. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and place your bet. Week 18, always full of some ridiculous spreads. It's difficult to know who's going to try to win and who isn't, who's going to play and who isn't. But there's at least one game that promises to be awesome. Vikings-Lions in Detroit on Sunday Night Football. The NFC 1 seed is on the line. That game is going to absolutely rule. Lions laying 2.5 points at home in that one. The total is a ridiculous 57 points on DraftKings. Lines and odds are subject to change, but this is going to be an amazing finale to the regular season. And here's a gift for all new customers. Bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FantasyPros. That's code FantasyPros for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Happy holidays from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Erickson, what's your next prediction?
The Seahawks are going to beat the Rams B team led by Jimmy Garoppolo, and Geno Smith is going to get himself a fat payday in the making. So Geno Smith has a bunch of contract incentives that are related to the team winning double-digit games, which they can do if they beat the Rams. That'll get them 10 wins for the year. He gets another $2 million if he passes for at least 186 yards, and he achieves a 69.5% completion rate this season. So
Nice.
The Seahawks are out of the playoff contention after the Rams clinched the NFC West last week. And so that's the only incentive Geno has to play, really, is, hey, I can make a lot of money in this game if I just throw for 200 yards. We win the game against the backups. So let's ride. So I like Geno Smith a lot in this week to be out there throwing the ball. It's funny. Something that I've been betting a lot this year is the Geno Smith under on his passing attempts. It's like every week it's 34.5, and he comes nowhere near the passing attempts and under that number. And I think like 8 of his last 10 games. But this is the one week where you might see him just throw 40 times so that he can get these high completions, short underneath targets to Jackson Smith and Jigba, and hit at least 200 passing yards and get the Seahawks to win against the Rams. As we know, look, the Rams, again, a lot of stuff in week 18 is like preseason. Like that's essentially what it is to me. That's how I'm viewing this game is Rams do not care. We see Sean McVay's preseason games, they get destroyed because he just doesn't care or try to win these games at any capacity. So I think that Geno has a day. If you're playing fantasy this week, I think that the Seahawks are a good bet to make on an offense that's going to play their starters a decent amount, just because they're going to finish the season strong, new head coach, and Geno has every incentive to be out there. So once he gets his incentives, gets the yards, maybe we see him come out, but I think he's going to do some damage before then. I think the Seahawks are going to win.
Were you saying NFC West like SpongeBob? I thought you said West.
Yes. Yes, exactly that.
Classic. Welsh, are you a SpongeBob guy?
I love SpongeBob. Did I hear SpongeBob is coming to an end this year too? My kid said that.
Oh, for real?
I think the guy who did the voice, the creator, I think he passed away, and there's something about SpongeBob ending this year, which you can't do.
I think SpongeBob. I once saw a stat. I can't remember where I heard it, but I think SpongeBob alone has accounted for something like 5% of the lifetime revenue for Paramount, which is like an obscene number to think about how big that company is, how long it's been around. It might have even been a higher percentage than that. It's just such a behemoth. I can't imagine they would let it end. So that's really surprising to me.
That's true.
Yeah, maybe it's not. Maybe you're
It might be a lie. It might be week 18 me just coming out here.
Maybe this is another prediction we're gonna miss on this show.
I hope we missed it though. I hope we're wrong.
What do you think, Welsh, about the Seahawks Rams game?
Yeah, I'm just like all in on the incentive gate across the board. Like there, especially when it's like obtainable. I mean, I'm still pissed about one that we can't put on here because the team is sitting a certain player, but like this is a massively obtainable one, like 200 yards passing for Geno on the financial incentive side, them to be slanging the ball against a backup Rams team. It's a smash of the century, 100%. But also just to point out, can you imagine that you are playing your fantasy championship and you have to decide between the likes of Jimmy Garoppolo or Joshua Dobbs? Like these are the guys that are going in at quarterback, and you're gonna back up running backs. I think McVay's like, we're excited to see what Blake Corum does. You know, like it's just you can't do week 18. Like week 18 is chaos. And anybody that does, I mean, God bless you, I guess, if you do it in fantasy and you're cutting your star players for Blake Corum and Jimmy Garoppolo, but it's rough. It's rough in the streets.
Yeah, I get that sometimes commissioners like make mistakes. It's like, you have a lot going on. You're setting up multiple leagues. Like, mistakes happen. If you intentionally put your championship in week 18, like you're just not fit to be.
I think there's a lot of people that intentionally go to week 18. I think you'd be surprised.
And why not just start in the preseason then? I mean, that's
I agree.
I mean, like people will argue like, oh, I want more games played. Like, so then start preseason week 1. Like, let's go. Like, let's get as many weeks as we can. Roll all the way to the Super Bowl.
People are petitioning NFL to end the bye weeks at week 13 so they can now start their playoffs 14 through 16 because of the chaos that just happened in week 17.
Well, I would like them to end their buys in week 13 so you could do in a 16 playoff 1 week, 2 weeks, and then you still don't go to week 18. Because I do like the 2-week championship, and that somewhat mitigates some of that. And so if you start at week 14, you could do that, but I don't know that we're going to see them like change the bye weeks, which is a bummer. Welsh, what's your next prediction?
All right. Oh, yeah. We're going to me. We were talking about SpongeBob and bye weeks and stuff like that, and I got distracted. I'm going to go back to the J.K. Dobbins well, and I'm going to have a victory lap. Even though there was a spiritual win for Mr. Andrew Erickson, I will get a full-on win, and Dobbins is going to go for over 100 yards against the Raiders, and we are going to lock in incentives. Raiders are giving up the 10th most rushing yards over the last month, even though they had been pretty stingy on the year. Also, you can pass against them. Dobbins had 19 carries last game. He's averaging over 4 yards per carry over his last 3 games, and he needs just around 60 yards to hit that $125,000 incentive that he's at. Because I think he needed like 134 going into last game. Was able to lock some in. We'll have a bigger game, much bigger game. He's going to go over 100. You can throw a touchdown in there if you want, but spiritual to actual wins. I'm going to just go with the 100 plus here. And also, might even mess around. Like you think about some of these and you go like 200 yards Geno, and then maybe you can alt. I don't know what Dobbins probably going to open up around 100. The books, by the way, are pretty keen to incentives. We'll talk about one that I have that they went hard. It's the most aggressive this guy's receiving yards have been the entire year, and it's because of what he needs. That I wouldn't be surprised if Dobbins opens up at like 65, 66, which would be a little bit more than you would usually probably see. But I would be playing overs on him, Geno Smith, and there's a couple others if you want to mess around in week 18 to have some actual fun that you're not, playing your championship into. So Dobbins over 100.
Erickson, you in on Dobbins again?
I like him, but maybe not to the 100 mark because he needs 58 to get 900 on the season, and that gets him his first bonus, and then he would need another 150 after that. So I kind of just like it. Hey, he'll get 60 rushing yards, and then that'll get him his bonus, and then they can probably sit him. Because the thing with the Chargers is if the Steelers win, which is my prediction, so we're kind of anti-correlated here, Welsh. The Chargers can't do anything playoff-wise. Like they are stuck where they are if the Pittsburgh Steelers win. So that gives them less incentive. And Harbaugh has kind of been non-committal about like playing his guys, especially if they have nothing to play for. I mean, we know that this Chargers team is based on the health of Justin Herbert. It's basically been that like all season. If there's an opportunity for him not to play that guy, not play J.K. Dobbins, who obviously was banged up during the offseason, got hurt during the season, looked healthy last week, that would mean my only shy away. But at least you get to know Sunday morning, hey, what did the Steelers do? If they lost, okay, let's rev up J.K. Dobbins. But if not, maybe you pull back a little bit.
I didn't think to look this up before the show, but I'm curious what Harbaugh did when he was with the 49ers in terms of choosing to rest guys or not when they had nothing to play for. Because the way he is wired, it would seem to me like that's not something they're going to do. But I'm curious what kind of the past has shown us that he's decided.
Dobbins is also in an interesting situation just because he missed so much time. And it's not like, you were out for the season, you got to get your reps in like, exhibition games and stuff like that. But like he missed a significant amount of time that you may want to like get that rhythm back. You may want him to be out there a little bit more, but to the point, hit the incentive, get off the field. My interpretation of a lot of teams that are, and this is actually what I thought. I mean, frankly, we could just say it like with the Eagles. I was 100% going to go with Saquon Barkley breaking the record, but then they announced that he's not going to. Was that they're going to give you a half. And I think any of these guys for teams that don't have a lot to play for that still want to maybe put some starters out there, you get a half to figure a thing out. That would have been, I thought, with Saquon. That's what I think it'll be with Dobbins, and they'll see within, what striking distance are you of, him specifically needing to get to it. So it'll be a strong half of where you'll get the guy. And if they are going to pull back, it would probably be in the third quarter. And if they have absolutely nothing to play for, I would actually say that's probably likely by Harbaugh.
The other thing I would just say on Dobbins is remember the first of, really like life-changing, like career-altering injury that he suffered was in a preseason game. Like, I think he is somebody who is going to say, like, getting the incentive, I do think like he is going to want to do that. I think once he hits whatever that first milestone is, I think he personally will be like, I've had a like injury that really like ruined my career once before in a game that didn't matter. I do not want to risk doing that again. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's in the back of his mind. I want to let everybody know that we've got a special offer for you all. Unlock a month of Betting Pros Premium for free. Download the Betting Pros app today and use promo code FPFREE to start betting smarter, not harder. Betting Pros Premium gives you exclusive access to cutting-edge tools that take your betting game to the next level. Our same-game parlay tool creates winning parlays with ease. Our prop bet analyzer and Prize Picks prop bet cheat sheet uncovers the picks that provide the most value. Our betting systems allow you to create and backtest custom strategies that help you find value and maximize your bankroll. Take the guesswork out of betting. Download the Betting Pros app, use code FPFREE, and start winning today. All right, Erickson, what's your next prediction?
The Jaguars are going to score 30 points against Indianapolis Colts this week. Mac Jones is going to go over his passing yards prop, which is egregiously low at 207.5 yards. And Brian Thomas Jr. is going to finish the year leading all rookies in receiving yards. So we'll start.
And what also is going to happen real quick? And then someone I know is going to cash a 14-1,
18-1 on Brian Thomas Jr. to lead all rookies in receiving yards. But this is, I mean, it's going to be a sweat because right now, currently in the standings, Brian Thomas Jr. leads with 1,179 yards. He is 35 yards ahead of Brock Bowers, who we're going to also talk about on this show at 1,144, who is 4 yards ahead of Malik Neighbors, who's sitting at 1,140. So all these guys are like fighting for records, but it's interesting because Neighbors and Bowers are kind of fighting for like receptions, where Thomas has the lead on the yards, but it's not like he's not going to break any receiving yards records, but he would just be the receiving yards leader this particular season, which I'm not sure if the Jaguars are paying it. I know I'm paying attention to this, of course, because this is something that I've been highly invested in all season long. So, but I just love the matchup here. When you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars and their offense, again, I don't need to go too deeply into how bad. I mean, the Colts just got lit up by a historic game by Drew Lock. Like, we literally just saw this happen about how bad this Colts defense is. The Jaguars, the last 3 times that they have faced the Colts over the past 2 seasons, 30 points in every single game. So Doug Peterson owns this defense. I mean, most offenses own this defense for Indianapolis. So I think, once again, they're going to finish the season strong. Mac Jones is going to connect with Brian Thomas Jr. He's going to go for 100 yards, whatever. But they're going to get over 30 points. Beat the Colts, and Brian Thomas Jr. is going to have himself another day and get himself into the first round of fantasy drafts next year. So it'll be fun.
I knew those guys were all having amazing like rookie seasons. Obviously, I didn't realize that they were all in the top 8 of receiving yards this year. Those 3 rookies, and like Chase and Jefferson are out of reach. But some of the other names in the top 8, like CeeDee Lamb, is not adding any more yards. Obviously, like Jerry Jeudy is stuck with this quarterback situation in Cleveland now. Like, if Amon-Ra St. Brown has a bad game and these 3 guys have good games to finish, like, we could reasonably see 3 rookies in the top 5 of receiving yards this year. That is like very much on the table looking at the leaderboard right now, which is remarkable. Honestly, that's like just so impressive for all 3 of those guys. You've been on Brian Thomas all year. I really liked Brian Thomas in August, and then I just didn't end up getting him in a lot of places, and I've had a ton of FOMO because of that. Welsh, what do you think about Thomas finishing the season leading all rookies in receiving yards, which in most years would already be locked if it wasn't for the fact that he also has Bowers and Neighbors?
I don't know. My next prediction might play a little role into it. I think it is definitely possible. He's the big play guy too. I mean, of all of these guys, there's, obviously there's consistency, mass amounts of catches for Malik Neighbors and Bowers. Thomas is the guy that's going to make the big play. So I think it's absolutely in play. I'm here for it. It's a great matchup. It's just going to be, all Mac Jones does is look at Brian Thomas, which you love to see. I remember when Lawrence went down, we were all like, oh God, what's going to happen? Like, are we going to see? And that's Mac Jones just looks at Brian Thomas and goes to him each game. So this is definitely in play. Does it lock? I'm not 100% sure, especially with my prediction. The one question I do have though, Erickson, can you cash this bet? Can you buy out of it at all?
I already looked at it. I can't. I do have another one on Neighbors too. So, I mean, the only one that can really just screw me over is Brock Bowers, which he probably will. So, because he's just that good. So, I'm ready for it. I'm like,
all right.
I mean, hey, this is one of those things where I don't want to die on the process. I really want the results here. Come on.
Let's get to Welsh's next prediction then, because it's about Brock Bowers.
Unfortunately, Bowers might ruin your weekend because Brock Bowers needs 9 catches to break the all-time, I believe it's tight end record. I believe that's the actual, because it was Zach Ertz who had like 116, I believe the number was. So 9 catches to break the all-time tight end record. Brock Bowers gets 10. He's going to have 10 catches in this game. He is caught, first off, 9 or more 6 times this season. He has had 10 receptions 4 times this season. He's also received 20 targets over his last 2 games. Maybe the yards will work in your favor, but I think we're getting 10 balls in Brock Bowers' hands, and what he does with them will determine the cash in your wallet. So I don't feel super great about it, but you do have that little bit of a lead. 10 catches for Brock Bowers is my bet. I do hope you cash the Brian Thomas one. I'm not sure if the Neighbors one is going to work out, but Neighbors is super close to him as well. But Brock Bowers breaking all the records this weekend.
Scale of 1 to 10, Erickson, how nervous are you about Brock Bowers ruining your bets here?
Well, I got to have a 40-yard buffer, and it's not, they're not going for yards. They're going for receptions. So it can be as easy as like, let's get him screens behind the line of scrimmage. Like they don't care if it's getting yards or not. Like a catch is a catch. So that works in my favor. Again, like I'd rather be in my spot than having to block Brock Bowers or Malik Neighbors. Like you're trying to catch me. So I'm in the lead, but as we see in Mario Kart, hey, no lead is safe. You never know what's going to happen. Those blue shells are coming for you. And Brock Bowers has a blue shell in the arsenal. And I'm afraid.
Blue shell comes from the last place team.
Okay, whatever.
He's not going to be getting back
triple
in
reds.
line.
And then they're humming.
Yeah. No stars for Brock Bowers. Eric, so let's go to your number 2 prediction.
Tony Pollard. He's going to play this week, hopefully, because it doesn't look like Tajay Spears is going to play. And I think he's going to hit his incentives. So he's going to rush for 83 plus yards, exactly, and hit 2 touchdowns. Exactly, because that's what he needs. That's what he needs for his contract incentives. Again, the Titans have been a lost season this year. They've actually been the worst team. I don't remember how long it's been, but against the spread, the single worst team like ever. It has been absolutely atrocious for them. So Callahan coming in after Mike Vrabel has been an utter disaster. They've had super low expectations, and they've somehow performed under expectations despite them being super low anyway. We're getting a dual quarterback usage this week between Will Levis and Mason Rudolph, which tells you this team is not trying to necessarily win this game. This team is trying to evaluate its quarterbacks, and I think it's pretty obvious to tell neither quarterback is going to be the answer in 2025. But when you look at Pollard, 83 rushing yards away from 1,100, so that's a $250K bonus. And if he scores 2 touchdowns, that's going to be another $200,000 that he'll hit his contract. And it's interesting because the touchdowns one I don't feel as great about, because in the last 2 games where Pollard and Spears have played together, Spears has had 4 rushing touchdowns. So like they had opportunities to give Pollard those touchdowns, but they didn't. Instead of giving them to Spears. I know Pollard's been banged up a little bit the last couple of weeks, but he's going to be the guy that's more healthy this week. I don't think Spears is going to play at all. So I like Tony Pollard at least to get 83 rushing yards. And then I think he's going to at least score 1 touchdown. So anytime touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, I think Tony Pollard, they're going to try to feed him if they get in, especially with Spears out. And the Texans are kind of, I'm not really sure what they're doing. I mean, I don't think anybody really knows what the Texans are doing, because conventional wisdom would suggest, well, they have nothing to play for. They should bench everybody. But they also played so horrible on Christmas that, dude, are they really just going to backdoor their way into the playoffs and hope that everything changes? Like, it seems like they should play their guys to just build some type of momentum. We all kind of know that this team's not going to make a playoff run, but if I were them, I'd be like, no, we got to play our guys. Like, we can't play like we did on Christmas and then be like, all right, we're good to go for the playoffs. Like, let's rest everybody. Rest them from what? They need to play better. So, and you've seen that reflected in the line movement. Like, it was pretty heavy on the Titans as favorites, and now you're seeing Houston like minus. It's like almost a pick 'em in some places. So, I'm not really sure. Nobody really knows what the Houston Texans are going to do. So if it's more competitive, again, going back to Tony Pollard, that's what I'm more sure about in this matchup.
I completely agree as far as the Texans. Like, I would play if I were them. Like, it's not just that Christmas game. That was like the kind of the big one that everybody saw, but like they just have not been playing well for a while. And it kind of all came to a head on Christmas Day. But on the Tennessee side, I feel like, I haven't been focusing that heavily at kind of the race for the number 1 pick this year, because A, there's no like generational quarterback prospect this year, at least the way people are looking at it. And B, like, it's just a lot of teams that like I didn't find that interesting to kind of be fighting for the number 1 spot. The Titans are currently picking second. Like, there is every possibility that, going into next season, they have Shedeur Sanders, or I guess I would guess Dion would kind of, manipulate it so he wasn't there. But like Cam Ward could be their quarterback next year, or somebody else who's coming out and kind of rises late in the process. So like they're just kind of the forgotten team for me. In the I keep thinking about like the Giants. Oh, they just lost the number 1 pick. Like, the Patriots are there, but they don't need a quarterback. The Raiders want a quarterback, but they're picking 8th right now. Like, the Titans, like, are picking second and need a quarterback. And I'll be really curious to see kind of like what direction they take that, because this was such a lost season. And like, I mean, I don't think Callahan's going to be one and done as a head coach, but like it was not an impressive year from him, like by any stretch. Welsh, what do you think about Tony Pollard this week?
Yeah, I like it, especially with Spears being out, having like that hardcore of an incentive. I was laughing when you were like, he'll have exactly those yards, and then he'll be like, that makes me laugh. But I do think he'll hit it. By the way, to jump on what you were saying, the Titans are 2-14 against the spread. I was looking at that when you said that. 2-14
and they
year is wild.
And the two teams I covered against, because I write up the BP primary every week, it was when they against the Texans, who have been also really bad against the spread this year, and when they beat the Patriots in overtime. Like that was it.
It's a wild number.
Welsh, what's your next prediction?
I'm going back to the Jameson Williams. Well, maybe boring, but JMO going to continue on with that crazy pitch pass to him, which saved me some money, definitely on some bets. But he's just been a bigger target monster in this offense, as defenses are definitely focused on Amon-Ra. They want to get the ball out of Jameson Williams. And that's the biggest change that's happened year over year, is like first read targets, design plays for Jameson Williams. So I think he's going to go over 100, and the Lions are going to beat the Vikings in this wild matchup. Maybe the other prediction should have been like they do actually hit the over, ridiculous over. But Vikings are giving up the second most receiving yards on the year to wide receiver, but also that is maintained over the last month. The last 4 weeks, second most receiving yards overall to wideouts. And he has caught 5 passes in 5 of his last 6 games. So he is getting a massive amount of targets. He's the guy that stretches the field. A couple opportunities that were missed in that 49er game as well. But you're seeing the targets go up in a, if you believe it's going to be a shootout based on that score, you should be in on overs for a lot of these guys, specifically Jameson Williams. I believe he also needs, it's like 50 yards to 1,000. So he can hit 1,000-yard season coming up here. So big incoming week for JMO.
Erickson, what do you think?
I mean, he's playing in the dome in a game with with like the highest total I've ever seen. Since I think that game in Mexico between the Rams and Chiefs, I think that game was pushing like 60 points. So you got one of the same quarterbacks playing in this matchup. It's interesting because when you look at like historically the number at 57, when games have closed at 57 and 57.5 or above, the over is actually hit at a 70% rate. So if the lines like settle on 57, 57.5, then no, it is going to go over somehow, some way.
It did go down. It's 56.5 now.
So it's interesting because that is a key number, because when the number is closed at 56.5, it's not positive towards the over. So again, as I've always bet the over is a chorus field of the NFL, but in this particular match, if it closed at 56.5, the books are saying, no, this isn't going to happen. It's going to go under the total. If anything, the confidence would be backing the over, and I think there's going to be a lot of sharp money on the under, because I think that's just an obvious play. I mean, this total is just, it's so high. It just bonkers. I think that I don't think a smart, again, anything can happen. And if it goes over, then it doesn't matter if you made the quote unquote right sharp move. But I think that the sharp play is clearly to take the under in this game.
There's a 19-point gap between the highest total of the week and the lowest, which is 37.5 for New York and Philly. Like, I cannot remember ever seeing a gap like that, but 2 games in the same week, just like almost a 20-point gap if it was one more point.
It's pretty bonkers. I did want to say one thing, because it reminded me of something when you mentioned it, Welsh. They're going to get, or JMO has a chance to get 1,000 receiving yards. What about this Juwan Jennings soothsayer? They're talking about getting him 1,000 yards. What about that? Joshua Dobbs coming in. They got the Tennessee connection. We saw him come in and kind of immediately target Jennings after it was a Ricky Pearsall. I mean, he only needs like 77 yards. Does he get to 1,000? Soothsayer, come on.
No, he does.
Okay.
100%. He 100% does. But yeah, no, that one hurt me. Just as a side note, I had like a big bet. It was like $1,400 on the line for George Kittle. It was a couple leg thing to just get a touchdown. Purdy gets knocked out. Dobbs is in. I'm like, he throws that ball to Kittle. We get to the 5-yard line. I'm like, please, all we needed was the Kittle touchdown. And he doesn't get it to Kittle. And then he tries to throw to Jennings. And I'm like, this is not going to happen. Then he ran the ball in and ruined absolutely everything. That aside, me hating Josh Dobbs for that, Tennessee connection, 100%. He's going to be slinging the ball to Jennings, and he's going to get that number for sure.
You guys can all help shape the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. Please take a minute or two to fill out our quick, easy survey at fantasypros.com/survey and leave a review at fantasypros.com/review to help us improve. We really appreciate your support all season long. We thank you for listening and help us get better and put our best foot forward here into 2025. Erickson, what's your last prediction?
DeAndre Hopkins scores a touchdown. Now, I did officially catch a touchdown from Carson Wentz, and now I'm realizing I may have made a mistake with that because we've seen the Chiefs do weird things at the goal line. So watch him catch a touchdown, not from Carson Wentz, some other quarterback, Noah Gray. Okay, regardless, the prediction is Hopkins scores a touchdown. It's because he is a one touchdown away from $500,000 bonus in his contract. And I don't think the Chiefs can necessarily sit everybody in this game. I think they're going to sit, obviously, their main starters. But I think Hopkins wants, hey, throw me out in the red zone and I'll catch a touchdown, and then I get my money. So I think that he's going to play enough where he gets red zone packages and he catches a touchdown. So Hopkins, touchdown for me. The official prediction is from Carson Wentz, and I can't wait for it to be Mecole Hardman that throws him the touchdown. So that'll be great.
It is a good point. It is a good point by you, Erickson, that these teams that have nothing to play for, you can't sit everybody. You do need to field a playable team. And the guys at the like, obviously, like, you don't want to risk it with somebody like, Patrick Mahomes or whatever. But like, Travis Kelce's older, DeAndre Hopkins is older too. But like, there is a limit to like, you literally cannot sit everybody that you want to if you're one of these really good teams with a lot of stars. The Ravens ran into this last year where like they had to play guys that normally you would want to sit because you just have to. So Hopkins might be one of those guys who's in there, and if you're playing, you might as well try and go get this contract incentive. Welsh, do you like DeAndre Hopkins to score a touchdown?
Yeah, what I like about it too, and what you're talking about here is like not everybody can play and blah, blah, blah. He won't be in any series until they get to the red zone. That'll be the big thing, especially if you don't want to play. He just sits on the sideline. They get into the red zone, and then in comes DeAndre Hopkins so they can really control and maintain this. So I 100% think they're going to give him an opportunity at this, obviously assuming that the team gets in the red zone. But I think inside the 20, inside the 10, that's where it'll be some Hopkins packages, and I'm definitely in on this. I also love that there's like I like that a lot of these teams and like coaches and stuff, you're almost playing against the organization still, because maybe, these billionaires don't necessarily care, but they're sitting there and be like, don't put this guy in for $500,000. But coaches, everybody, like, they're going to be supportive. They're going to give some opportunities for it to happen. And I think it will with that club. And I like this one.
Plus 425 anytime touchdown scorer on DraftKings. Plus 2,500 first touchdown scorer.
And then if he doesn't play, it gets voided, right? So
that
you also have that option too. Like if he doesn't play a snap, then you get your money back. So
what was it? Anytime on Hopkins?
425. Plus
425. High. That's pretty high for Hopkins.
I kind of did a double take to make sure I'm looking at it right.
I guess they assume he's not going to start or play much.
That's bad. Yeah, it's a bad line. Take advantage, people. Take advantage.
I'm going to jump on that as soon as we're done.
Yeah, it was updated on DraftKings earlier this morning. Yeah, plus 425 anytime touchdown and plus 2,500 first touchdown.
I mean, if he does anything in this game, it's going to be catching a touchdown.
That's the point. Like if there's anything, it's going to be red zone targets. That's what he would be there for. Yeah. I'm not doing yards. I'm not doing catches, just touchdown.
Welsh, what is your final prediction of the show?
All right, this is the easiest one of the week. It's a smash. I will say I did have, I know I mentioned earlier, my number one was going to be the Saquon one. 101 yards. He was going to do it in the first half. Obviously, he's not playing. But this is the smash of the smash weeks. It's Mike Evans. Mike Evans is going to have a 100-yard day, and he is going to also have a touchdown, even though his incentive is not tied to the touchdowns, because last week, remember when I said 2? He already hit that. He needs 5 catches, 85 yards to get his, I think it's a $3 million bonus. He needed all those things to piece together. So this is not to be dismissive about like my J.K. Dobbins one. This isn't like 125,000. This isn't $500,000. This is a $3 million bonus. Also, the books have already put, this is what I was alluding to earlier, Mike Evans receiving yard line, 91 it's opened up at. That's a wild number to open up at, but because everybody knows where the incentives are at, the Bucs are playing for the NFC South title, so the importance of winning this game is absolutely in play. He's had 97 or more yards in 3 of his last 5 games, 8 catches in 3 of his last 5 games, 8 catches or more. You need 5, you need 85, lock. Let's throw a touchdown in there because it's an important game. Lock it up. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get in on that yard prop because
It went up, by the way. It went up. It's 95.5 now.
And I'm going to guess his catches are probably going to be, they're probably going to lock it at 6.5, maybe 7, because he needs 5. So maybe they'll mess around at 5.5. I'm going to guess it's going to be 6.5. It's going to be very tempting, but because of the volume that he's going to need and the importance of winning this game, the anytime touchdown is going to be in play. It was minus money last week, but it smashed. So I love all of it. So we're going 100 and a touchdown for Mike Evans and him securing, I believe, the 10th straight 1,000-yard receiving season and a $3 million bonus.
It'd be 11th, right? Because he was drafted in 2014.
11, 12,
right?
sure.
Yeah.
All of them. Yeah, whatever it is.
Remarkable streak.
He's insane.
Erickson, we all think that Evans is going to hit these incentives. What do you think about that 95.5 line? Are you taking the over on that?
I mean, this is literally going to he's going to break the records, but then not hit any of his props. Like that's
by the way, the over is minus 130.
That's what I mean. That's why
that's the dumbest
he's going to have.
It's
going to be he has 6 catches for 90 yards, right? So everybody loses all their money because they bet the overs, but he's happy because he gets 1,000 yards. He gets his 5 catches that he needs, but he doesn't actually get. So I mean, if you can alt bet this, like I think maybe just do over 5.5 catches, over 80 yards or something like that. Maybe again, it's going to be heavy juice anyway, but if you combine the receptions and the yards, because you don't want to be playing against what the incentive actually is, right? They know once he gets it that he's good to go and not necessarily to force things. It does from a matchup perspective though. If I'm the Saints, I'm putting Calvin Johnson double coverage on Mike Evans because
hater coverage.
I mean, look, the Saints are rivals with the Buccaneers. They don't want to make it easy on Mike Evans. And it's interesting because it's the one time we've had the Saints matchup where there is no Marshawn Lattimore. Like this has been his Achilles heel his entire NFL career as though he gets Marshawn Lattimore. He's no longer on the team. And it's interesting because when they've had these previous matchups, it's not even because of Lattimore that he's been knocked out. He's been ejected in games. He's left every game with an injury. It seems like with a hammy, even this year when he played the Saints, he didn't play the full game because he got hurt. So that's the other thing too, is if he gets banged up, obviously he wouldn't hit his incentives. But I'm interested to see if the Saints just throw everything at Mike Evans. Like, no, like we're not going to let him make this easy on him, and we're going to do everything to stop him. And I mean, they want to win this game. They want to play spoiler in some way. Again, I don't think that they can win, especially against the B team, but it would be interesting to see if Rizzy's like, no, our goal is to make sure Mike Evans doesn't get to 1,000 receiving yards. We're going to throw everything at him to stop him. And Baker Mayfield has, as good as he's been this year, he's thrown a lot of interceptions. So.
Sounds like you might want to play an under. By the way, Baker has an incentive as well. I just had it before and I went away from it. It's like the completion percentage to be in like the top 10, I think, of completion percentage in the league. And it's a multi-million-dollar bonus attached to it. So not that that's going to like drive anything, but you know, probably maybe be looking a little bit more screen passy there. It sounds like you might want to play a Mike Evans under on receiving yards this week because you can go under 95 and he can still hit his goal.
Under is also even money.
That's not fun. That's lame.
It's not fun. Sure,
I
but
mean,
you're the Undertaker.
I know. I want to do the reception. I want to do the alt receptions and the receiving yards. Like, because like I think ultimately he's going to get it. I mean, he's a Hall of Fame receiver. Again, I'm talking about theoretically with the Saints. Oh, they could do this and that, but it's also like Dan Rizzi, man. Like, is he actually going to do this? Like, probably not. And they just don't have the ponies anymore.
We've also heard Baker specifically talk about this 1,000-yard marker, which is super important. And I just reiterate again, this is not like a, half or $250,000 bonus. This is $3 million. This is a huge bonus that they're 100% going to be paying attention to.
Also, they need to win this game still, technically.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Like they can get in the playoffs without winning, but like they want to win to clinch the division. And it is like good practice to throw the ball to Mike Evans. Like, it's not like he's some, terrible player at this point in his career that you're just doing like giving charity to. Like, he's their best receiver. Like, they want to throw to him to win this game, even aside from the fact that there's all these incentives too. So,
and he can also make play. I mean, he can be double covered and still catch the ball. Like we've seen this with Mike Evans before. If anything, like that's where he thrives. So
he's pretty good.
Yeah. Pretty good.
All right, we'll wrap up there. Thanks everybody for tuning in. If you do have a matchup in Week 18, I apologize on behalf of your commissioner, and best of luck to you. Hopefully, this is just serving as more of a preview or maybe some betting or DFS for you. But best of luck if you do have a matchup there. For Welsh and Erickson, I'm Ryan Wormeli. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you again next week.